Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Work Trends with Megan M. Biro. Whether you're here to network, learn, or share, we want you to have fun. During this live broadcast and Twitter chat, we'll discuss the future of work with smart and entertaining guests who value today's business and its impact on the world of work for the future. Stay tuned, because we start in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, you know who this is. It's MMB, Megan M. Biro. How's everyone doing out there? Welcome to another informative talent culture, work trends, live podcast, and Twitter chat. I hope you guys like my fancy new introduction. I think he's kind of cool. And every single time I hear that, I'm half laughing at myself and half dancing. It's really embarrassing. And someday when I get on video, you guys will all see those moves, okay? I promise. So listen, I want to thank my sponsors and friends and community players and give you all a special shout out for your friendship and your support all these years in the talent culture community. I appreciate you guys very, very much. I'm excited about today, like I am probably every week, and every week is unique. I get to really meet very interesting and passionate people in the world of work, right? So today we're talking about superpowers, right? And we're talking about the superpowers of leaders, touching on things that we know and love, like accountability, conviction, persuasion, collaboration, right? We're also going to kind of get back to the basics a little bit around what's happening now with what makes an effective leader and how everyone out there can become superheroes. No, that's not cheesy. That's me talking about making yourself better as a leader and kind of using some pop culture to enhance talent management initiatives. So I'm excited. We've got a very interesting guest who, just shared with me in the green room that he's been reading my work for a while and has been listening. And he and I just met for the first time, like today. He's a pretty interesting guy, so I'm definitely excited to learn a little bit more about what makes him tick. And our today's guest is Mr. David Kahn. He's at Leader Says What on the Twitters, and he's a Ph.D., and he's the author of Cape, Spandex, Briefcase, Leadership Lessons from Superheroes. He's an experienced researcher and practitioner in leadership, and he's been speaking and consulting on the principles of company culture, management, organizational behavior, business strategies for almost 20 years now. And he also writes for his own blog called, guess what, leaderssayswhat.com, where he talks leadership and research and maybe adds a little bit twist of that pop culture thing in there, which you guys know I love. So, hey, David, what's happening? Welcome.
Hey, Megan, how are you? Pleasure to be here.
Pretty well. Well, we're excited to have you here. Are you in spandex, or do you have a cape on or anything that we should know about?
Only under my suit.
Nice. Very nice. Well, I like the name of your book. It's kind of fun and catchy,
Thank you.
Cool
I appreciate
stuff.
it.
No problem.
I tried to make a fun topic out of something that is a very serious topic.
It is very serious, isn't it? You sound kind of serious with a little fun edge going on. We're gonna get to the bottom of that pretty soon. I tell you, I'm a little curious about you. So listen,
okay.
Talk about the power of accountability. What is all this superpower stuff you're talking about?
Now, I took leadership and I tried to figure out 4 to 5 things that every leader needs to have, and one of them is accountability. And what I found was a lot of people in leadership positions, maybe they didn't get there on purpose. They fell into it. Maybe they were amazing at their jobs, so they got promoted into this leadership position with no real want or yearning to become a leader. They were just, that was the next step in their career. And other people just found themselves in a situation where they are a leader. And from the research I did and from just observing people, there's this sense of ownership that a leader needs to take when they go into that job. And it's the superpower law is your success is rooted in how committed you are to being accountable for the outcome. So I talk about Spider-Man and Peter Parker and how Peter Parker, and he's one of our more classic superheroes. There have been 5 or 6 movies with him, and he's been around for almost 50 years. And This is a kid who got bit by a spider. And
really?
He doesn't immediately, and that spider bite gives him superpowers, but he doesn't become a superhero because the spider bit him. He becomes, in fact, for a while, he's a pretty selfish kid who's using these superpowers to make money and get wealth and popularity. It's not until his uncle dies and because Peter didn't do what he could have protected his uncle, he wasn't paying attention and something bad happened. Once his uncle dies, that's when he decides, I'm going to be a superhero. I'm going to help other people.
Uh-huh. So he had that moment, right? He had that moment when he realized something, right?
Absolutely, and that's when his uncle, he remembers what his uncle told him, which is with great power comes great responsibility. That wakes him up, and that's when he becomes a superhero.
Yeah. So let's talk about David Kahn. Let's talk about what has led you, David, in your career to become an author and all of that stuff. Talk a little bit about your background for those who may have never heard of you before.
Sure. I started over 20 years ago, and in my prior life, I was a counselor, a psychologist, working with adults with pretty severe mental illness, bipolar, schizophrenia, very intense workplace, and I just didn't feel like I was making the difference that I wanted to make. I didn't feel like I was helping them. And
was this where? Like where? I know you're in West Palm Beach right now, right?
This was in Orlando and in Fort Lauderdale, and I was working in day facilities, outpatient care.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and that's busy. I mean, I know you may or may not know, once upon a time I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. So I'm kind of fascinated by people, and I took a detour, of course, into the world of recruiting, but that's a long story. But, in Florida specifically, there's a lot of just unrest and has been for many, many years. It seems like, this great place to go disappear in vacation, but there's a whole population of people there who are affected by mental illness, depression, and other stuff that makes all of us human, right? So you
Absolutely.
very much have
it's a very intense,
an interesting training ground. Yeah.
Yeah, and
are you from Florida originally?
I am. I grew up in Winter Park, just outside of Orlando.
Oh, cool. I'm going to be in Orlando in 2-3 weeks from now. I'm going to Walt Disney World and Epcot for a speaking gig. So it's going to be really fun. Yeah. Yeah, my brother and my nephew are going to meet me there too. So we're going to have a little work time and a little vacay time while I'm down there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the balance, right? You got to work some, but you got to have fun some, right? And is there something in your career that made you go, okay, I'm getting out of here. I'm making that turn. When did that happen for you?
That happened. I was in my early 20s. I had my master's degree in counseling and psych, and like I said, I just didn't feel like I was making that difference, and I just got to that crossroad where I've got to go left or right, and thankfully the dean of my master's program went to a different school and said, I've got a great program for you. It's business psychology. And it ended up it was organizational development, and training, and that's where I started really studying leadership, and my career took a very different path at that point.
Cool. So talk about your interest in the superpower of conviction. What is that?
Conviction there's really two parts of conviction. The first is that your value is determined by the goals you strive for. So it's, what is that vision? What are you trying, what is your goal? What are you moving towards? And every superhero has this vision. They all have some, it could be social justice. It could be just saving innocent people. It could be saving the universe, whatever it may be. But it's what are you working towards? And then the second part of it is, how do you achieve it? And that's where the leader is setting a precedent, because there might be some shortcuts you can take. There might be an easier way to get there. But once you start taking those shortcuts, you can't undo that, and it gets easier and easier to find the easy way. And sometimes you lose your ethical path, your ethical grounding when that happens.
Well, not only that, you lose yourself, right? Because if you
Absolutely.
don't buy your own story, guess what? Nobody else is buying. You are responsible to you when you're a leader, right? You're not convincing anybody of anything, and ultimately, your truth, your inner truth, ends up kind of talking to you about some of that, right?
It does, and what you find is, in the real world, not in the comic book world, but in the real world, the bad guys don't really know that they're bad guys. No one stands up and says, I'm a bad person. They all think they're moving towards something important. And they probably believe in what they're trying to do. But the way they're doing it is very typically the wrong way. And it could be very self-serving. It could be hurting a lot of people. And they either don't notice, or the goal is so much more important than the way they feel like they should get there. It's the end. They feel like the ends justify the means.
And sometimes they're tone deaf, like I talked about in my post, right?
Absolutely.
I think we've all had that experience of a boss who, does not tune in, is just not listening, right? Is so focused on success, whatever that might be. It could be financial, it could be, ego, it could be a lot of different things, right? Because people are complex beings, let's be honest. Not every single leader is, people like to make it more black and white because it's easy, right? You are motivated. You are Donald Trump. You are only motivated by making money on real estate. Or whatever. But I think people are much more multi-layered and multi-faceted than we give them credit for. But I think there's this other piece of it that we're talking about right now where we are seeing some pretty weird themes with leaders, and it's been happening for a number of years with this idea that they're not tuning in, that they don't realize that they're not living on their own island, right? And it is a theme. I don't think we can escape it.
No, you're absolutely right. And power has a way of isolating you. And you find that the longer you're in power, the more you're surrounded by people who are telling you what they think you want to hear.
Right.
So you become more and more insulated from the truth, or just from differing opinions, because even the people who disagree with you water it down because they don't want to upset you, or maybe they're scared for their own jobs, or just self-preservation.
No doubt about it. Well, here's another important one. Can you share how leaders learn and use the power of persuasion? And, when we talk about persuasion, again, I can't help but thinking what's going on in U.S. politics right now with, the different parties and, how each side is persuading, and they have these super PACs, right? I mean, I'm very, very fascinated by politics right now, and certainly Donald Trump is just endlessly entertaining to me. Seriously. Like, talk about the power of persuasion. Have you noticed that he has avoided to this day not getting into a meaty debate about anything that is actually going to affect our country, our foreign policy, et cetera, because he's just so good at getting everybody so excited about whatever he's going to talk about, right? I mean, it's just he's persuasive, right?
He is.
As an example, one of many, right?
One of many, but there are many ways to persuade someone to do something. He and many of the people running for office right now, they're using fear to persuade. So they're really getting into that base instinct of the world's falling apart and I'm the one who can save it. And that makes people feel good to know that somebody is looking out for their interests. But Trump has something else, that he sounds authentic. He doesn't sound scripted.
Yeah.
He doesn't sound like he doesn't sound like your typical politician. And
no.
Even when he's talking complete nonsense, it sounds authentic and it sounds real. And I think people hear the authenticity more than they hear the content of what he's saying.
I think that's kind of fascinating, actually. And I don't know why that is right now. Are we just so overloaded with content at this point in information, whether it's traditional media, digital media, like why are we like this? And I mean, I'm very honest with everybody here. I mean, I'm certainly not supporting Donald Trump. Go figure, right? He's just not somebody I would vote for in a million gazillion years for a variety of reasons. But that's okay. That's my view. That doesn't have to be everybody else's view. But I think if you look at it from just a purely humanistic or psychological perspective, it is really, really fascinating. And I think there's a lot of correlation between political figures and corporate figures, right? When we talk about the world of business and leaders.
Absolutely. He's a little bit of both, and he's made his career.
Yeah, that's right. He certainly has.
He's made his career being that authentic brash person.
Right?
Pardon me?
Yep, and he's selling dreams. He sells dreams. He's in that category, right? So tell me about some of the leaders that you met along the way. I mean, you've done extensive research. You must have so many awesome stories.
It's some of them are big. I mean, there's big people, but really the best stories are just in my work experience and working with people who've been just tremendous leaders. And some have been some of the worst leaders you've ever seen, and I learned a lot from them too. Learning what not to do can be just as helpful.
So what is one of the worst leadership stories or real-life case studies you encountered that affected you in who you are today, David? I mean, is there one that kind of stands out that was like, this is it?
Watching a leader just berate somebody in the hallway, berate her assistant in the hallway is just something that is forever etched in my brain. Because it was, first of all, I don't think any adult should be yelling at another adult, or anyone else for that matter, but watching that someone in that level of authority and that much power just mentally and emotionally strip down this other person for no constructive reason. It didn't change a behavior. It didn't make anything better. All it did was probably provide a cathartic experience for that person and show that she was in charge and this other person wasn't. And just watching that and seeing it happen more than once with multiple people really made me want to find better leaders, better people to work with and to work for.
Well, that would make sense, right? Was that years back when you were working as a psychologist?
No, this was once I was in the workforce doing training in organizational development and human resources.
Wow, that's kind of interesting. What kind of an organization was that?
For the sake of that person, I won't mention it, but it was it was a smaller company, and it was not the healthiest work culture.
Yeah.
And
well,
but when you look at persuasion,
right? Yeah.
When you look at persuasion, persuasion is all about convincing someone else to do something, because ultimately you can't force them to do it, to do anything. And no one has the resources to bribe everybody to do anything either. All you have is convincing. And when you're doing that, you're basing that on trust, and you're building that foundation of trust. That's what the leadership is.
So how do you fix this? Like, do you have some sort of a prescriptive method that you use, David? You seem like kind of a prescriptive kind of a guy. Something about you,
yeah.
Right? Do you have how do you have like different buckets of leaders, right? And then do you have is it one prescription that is sort of this is going to work, or do you tailor it according to the leader and their behaviors and their personalities? How does that break down for you in your practice?
I think you really need to tailor it for the individual. There is no one-size-fits-all, which is why many of the highest performing leaders don't go to leadership trainings, because those are more of I don't want to use the word generic, because those are important courses that have a lot of great information. But once you reach a certain level in your career, you do need more one-on-one attention. And you need prescriptions that are specific for you and your personality, because as we mentioned, people are complex. So you can't just put everybody into a bucket and say you need this because you act this way. So for me, a lot of it is based on emotional intelligence. It's based on first understanding who you are and how you're perceived. And then once you know that and you understand it and you're willing to make a change based on that, then you can move forward and figure out ways to become a better leader. Unfortunately, most of the people who go through it, the ones who need it the most don't ever do it, which is unfortunate. Or they don't do it well.
They're not knocking on your door, David. They're not beating down your door, saying, "I need help."
A lot of them are so convinced that they know what to do that they don't need anybody, and they're not looking for anybody.
But you might be hearing from somebody else. Yeah.
They might be. But it might take too long, and it could affect too many people.
Right. Who's typically knocking on your door right now? What's the scenario? What's a typical day in the life of David Kahn if you're acting as a practitioner, doing consulting in this way? What does that look like for you?
It's CEOs, it's entrepreneurs who are trying to grow their business and have, not necessarily for themselves, but they have high-level executives, middle managers who they see a lot of promise in and want to build and help them. That's the general. But then there's also, this book tapped into a whole audience that I hadn't thought about, which is the early 20s who are just joining the workforce, don't have leadership experience, and they're being prescribed this book because they feel like it's a good base for leadership, and it's delivered in a way that they'll actually read it.
Well, what's this whole thing about pop culture? What's your angle on that? How are you using that to make better leaders?
A couple ways. It's using pop culture. First, it interweaves the things that we already understand. So you're teaching something with a degree of entertainment attached to it, which doesn't lessen it, and it doesn't water it down, and it doesn't lower expectations. It engages the participant, the person learning, so that they actually want to learn more, and they want to get deeper into it, and they want to have conversations about it, and it's more than just reading through a list of bullet points, because people don't relate to the bullet points. They don't personalize that. They don't internalize it. But if I can tell you a story about someone, and that person could be a superhero, but that person could also be a sports star, That could be, it could be Taylor Swift. It could be someone from The Walking Dead. Whatever you're into, me or any organizational development professional, anyone teaching, can integrate that into the lesson and not change anything about the lesson except for the examples they're giving.
Now, do you actually dress up? Do you ever dress up in your cape and spandex? Like, is this a show you bring on the road? Like, do I need to come see you in Vegas? Is this something?
I typically don't, but I would if I knew you were going to show up.
Okay, because we should talk about that. I'm kind of seeing that as being funny. You know, like Dave, like I'm having this rather dry conversation with you, right? It's fun, but it's dry. This is a dry topic, right? So it's important. It can be. It's not only dry, it can be a difficult topic to talk about because what we're talking about is people who need help, right? There's a reason why we're talking about this, and it's not about success. Sometimes it's about failure, right? So I can imagine, I'm just imagining you in this superhero's costume. That's all. I have a background in dance, in theater and performance, David. You and I haven't met yet, but when we do, it's all going to make sense to you. So maybe we should think about this. Maybe this needs to be a series that you're taking on the road. I'm here for you. I've got ideas, David. You know? You never know.
If you're willing to dress up with me, then I'm more than happy to do it.
I might be. You never know. You just never know where this new friendship is going to take us, right?
Absolutely.
So, on that exciting note, tell me just a little bit about your new book, right? And it sounds like you've got a project happening. Is there a project called Heat?
There is. It's something that a colleague and I are working on. Heat is it's horizontal engagement anticipation theory.
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
What?
It's horizon engagement anticipation theory. And it sounds complicated.
I'm scared to know.
The premise is simply that people are most engaged when they have something to look forward to. So as a leader, we need to create these references on the horizon. So it's having something to anticipate will engage you and will engage your culture. And then, so we're
cool.
We're learning, we're researching how leaders.
Yeah,
so we're doing research right now on what leaders can do to build that level of anticipation and grow and have a culture of anticipation.
That's very cool. I mean, that goes right along with branding and storytelling, right? I'm sure you're touch-pointing that.
Absolutely, and storytelling is a huge part of that, and of building anticipation. And then once you know what that horizon is, you can keep moving it.
Like, what's happening next? What are you doing for the next couple of weeks? What's next for David? Where are you taking all this goodness? We must know.
We are a few speaking engagements for the superheroes, and we are in the writing stages of Heat. So we're hoping to have something to release in the next year. Very
nice. Well, listen, we're running down on the clock right now. I want to thank you for your time today and your great stories and your awesome career to date. Can't wait for us to maybe bring this show on the road at some point to Vegas, right?
I'm there.
And then I hope to see you on the Talent Culture blog because I think you've got some blogs for us. You've got more stories to tell us. So listen, let's take this party over to the Twitters and let's continue it because it's a really, really interesting and important topic. Thanks again, David.
Sounds good. Thank you.